So first, I'm going to run you through how I believe we should approach this from the perspective of a hiring manager, taking the job as it will exist in the company through to a job spec or job ad. And then I'll route back to how you can take and read a job ad and work out what you actually need to know, what you'll actually be doing. As a company, when we start hiring for a role, I believe we need to begin with what the problem is that we're solving. We can capture a sort of one-sentence mission for the role. How will the company be changed by this person joining? What will success look like for them? I don't feel like it should be your responsibility at all. So it kind of really sucks that this is a question that you feel you need to ask. There are lots of pieces of information that you can just not include because it is your CV, right? So it's trimmed down. The thing is, like, you're battling with unconscious bias, but you're also battling with conscious bias. Like, there are people who are biased and will be biased against you, and that will come through. The second you open your mouth, people will make assumptions based on your accent. We're doing Zoom interviews now, so it's not just your voice, it's the way that you present yourself, and it's what's in the background on your call. This process of working out your actual requirements before you post a job, I think, is critically important, especially if you can then directly run your interviews off the back of those. In the past, what's worked really well for me is limiting people to 4 criteria. You may have 4 requirements, exactly, and only 4. Some of them can have an and in, but only if the 2 things are very related. What are our criteria that we're looking for? Splitting them up, making sure you cover off all of them with a structured couple of questions for your first interview conversation, making sure that everyone who is involved in the interview process is aligned on what good looks like and where our compromise line is. It now becomes very hard to say, yeah, I really liked her, we should hire her, because it's like, okay, you really liked her, that's cool. But the 2 things I asked you to assess were her experience of closing large enterprise deals. Did she talk you through a sales cycle? How did that go? It takes a lot more out of it. It means that you, as the hiring manager or the person running the process or a co-interviewer, have a lot more ability to push back on this wild subjectivity. Good way to indicate years of experience that you're looking for is just put a salary on the job ad. Because people who've got 1 year of experience will be like, oh yeah, that's a much more senior salary than me, so I'm not going to apply for it. It's quite a helpful way of indicating the level of seniority that you're looking for. And more of us should be putting salaries on job ads anyway, because information's power. For me, it would be when someone says, oh, I'm looking for someone with about 5 years of experience, just hone on it. 5 years of experience doing what? What do you want them to achieve in that 5 years of experience? Startup 5 years of experience? Someone who's got 5 years of experience and has been promoted 8 times through that, or someone who's had the same job with the same title for 5 years, because these are 3 very different profiles. One of the kind of lazy startup tropes, I think, is, oh yeah, I want someone who's got a really good degree in something numerate and has then worked in a consultancy for a couple of years. So I'm like, what if you can't afford to go to uni? What if you can't afford to get the unpaid internships that you need so that you can get into a grad scheme at a top consultancy? What if you just don't live in a city where there are consultancies? What if you have a small child that you're looking after and you can't work during that? What if you went to a school that didn't have these kind of feeder routes into top tier institutions and didn't have the kind of career support that you get from high level privileged schools, and therefore didn't know that consultancy was an option at all? What if you just were kind of ill when you were doing your GCSEs, so you didn't get the results you needed to do the A-levels that you wanted to do to let you into a university that would let you into a grad scheme? 1 week of being ill and suddenly we don't get through all of that. So actually, what are we looking for there? Are we looking for people who can deliver work on a deadline, people who can show evidence of learning by themselves, people who can show that they can produce good quality written material, people who are numerate, people who have done field work in some way, people who've been able to solve a well-contained problem, people who are comfortable applying frameworks and have been trained up in a framework-oriented way. Because actually, a bunch of this you can just do by reading books. So you might be better off hiring someone and saying, hey, here are 2 books that will teach you the frameworks that I wish you'd learned from your 2 years of consulting that you didn't do. I find the proxies really frustrating because so much of the time they're a real tool for pushing marginalized groups out, and they're just building on top of everybody else's screening criteria. This has been really fun. I've really enjoyed all of these questions. Lots of them are really hard, but kind of all of them in some way make me want to overthrow the whole recruiting process so that it's better for everyone.